So, good evening, everyone at Massey University Auckland campus in the room, and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are joining from. Kia ora, and greeting from Aotearoa, New Zealand. So, my name is Chandana Siriwardana, and I'm a senior lecturer working at Massey University School of Built Environment. And then we are very happy to welcome you all to this event, and then hopefully we can make it very engaged and very interactive session. So following the traditions of Aotearoa, New Zealand, I would like to first invite my colleague Harold for the Karakia to start the event formally. Harold.
Let's just read the Karakia together. Ngami o tera, ki te whānau e huihui nei, kia tau te rangimarie, kia whakatapua tātou, me ngā mea e whakapono ana tātou haumie hui e takie.
Thank you very much, Harold. As you all know, construction is one of the most hazardous industries. So whatever the precautions we take, whatever the regulations we bring into the industry is not enough always. Therefore, we need to find avenues and methods how we can work together to improve the practices and make everyone go home safely. So that is why we thought to organize this event and explore how we can integrate the technologies developed in the rest of the industries and then bring it to the construction and then make it more efficient, more safe, and ready for the climate challenges that we face in the global economy as well as climate change and so on. And without further ado, I would like to first formally welcome you all to the event, to our head of the school, Professor Monty Sutrina. Professor, please welcome everyone. And then formally we can start the event. Maybe you can stay there.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I like to see this room full. Like this is nice. You know, some students sometimes try to skip classes now these days after COVID, but so it's nice to see the room full. Welcome to the School of Built Environment at Massey University. So this is part of the things that we do. We do research. We try to work with partners from industry, from other universities, and so on. Last week, I was in a conference called ISARC in Singapore. So it's the International Symposiums of Robotics and Automation in Construction. It's the research symposium. It's the 43rd, so it's quite a mature event. And coming back here feels like deja vu. It feels very similar. We're doing on par with what the rest of the world are doing. So I'm really, really happy to see this, that our school and our university is leading this together with our partner from Western Sydney. So I hope you enjoy this. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. It's going to be a productive evening. And thanks again for coming. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your warm welcome as well as your continued support to make these kind of events possible. And then next is, as Professor Monty said, this is not an event that we as a School of Built Environment do in isolation. This is a collaboration between many schools, like School of Health Sciences, which Dr. Ravi Reddy is part of it, and then Western Sydney University, Australia, Professor Srinath Perrais and Dr. Samuday is coming from, and also University of Auckland, Dr. Na Sau is coming from, and also Dr. Napoleon is from Computational and Mathematics at Massey University, New Zealand. So those are the academic collaborators, and without the CIOB support, I don't think that we get the online participants. Like last time when I checked, we had around 150 registrations. So thank you very much, Matt, for that support, and also Georgia. So Matt Duran, who is the Senior Regional Manager for the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, please give us some introduction about the purpose of the CIOB, and then what are the pathways available at CIOB as a partner.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very, very much for including us on this amazing event. We're very pleased to be here. It really is an honor to have our name associated with such a fascinating collaboration. We really appreciate the support, and for anybody in the room who needs help with their career, you know, we're here really to send a message to please try to utilize your professional bodies in the industry to support you on your journey. I've got a small pack that I'd like to share just to give you a bit of an introduction. I'm hoping you can see the screen right now. Just a quick 5-10 minutes from me, really. Everyone see? Perfect. Thank you. And so just to set the scene, really, you may have seen the logo CIOB on the flyer, but what is CIOB? And really, who do we represent? So one of the first things I'd like to say from the outset is there's a lot of professional bodies across the globe that support the industry, and providing you follow one, you're doing your bit, you know, so encourage you to do that. With the Chartered Institute of Building, as it's known as, our members across the globe, approximately 50,000 members across the globe, stand for the science, the ethics, and the practice of the whole built environment. So what it means is anything within that we care about. Really, it's about improving that quality of life. We protect the people who build it, and we protect the people who use it. So the Chartered Institute of Building dates back to the 18th century. We're a very traditional organization. There's a lot of expertise and knowledge within our membership base, and we can support you. So I'd just like to encourage people to get involved. Our club itself started many years ago in London when master builders got together and they collaborated, and they decided to join, share ideas possibly. I mean, it's long before our time. Share ideas and try to work together to make a better industry. Really, it was a club. It was sort of like a networking club. And then in the 1950s, we got our chartership, our Royal Charter. And this was significant because really everything that we do now stands for the public good. So we actually exist to support the public and their development and the built environment. Now, what you may not know about the CIOB, it's a very diverse membership base. We have members, as I said, across the globe, but we have such a vastly interesting range of roles that end up being chartered with us. So you'll see here the CIOB spectrum. These are actual roles that where people end up getting chartered with us. So it's very interesting. What we really like is that sometimes, as Chana said, we've put our event out to lots of members, and you'll get such a diverse range back because our membership base is such. So it's very interesting. We quite like these sort of events. We do face-to-face as well. It's very interesting to see which people end up in the room. So you get like project managers, you might get QSs, environmentalists, lecturers, teachers, all sorts of just getting together. And we build careers. So there's a lot of online learning. Now, as a student member, as a full-time student member, you get free access to this. Like I said, we stand for the public good. We're not looking to make money out of you. All the money that the organization makes through membership fees gets put back in with non-profit organization. So we invest in making really cool things happen to support you. Training, online learning, CPD. You can access quite a lot. So I'm going to tell you how to get access to that very quickly. But one of the things I would say is that for professionals, people do want to get chartered. It's meaningful. So becoming chartered is an application that you take once you're qualified and experienced. And then you actually get signed off by the industry. So it's an experience-based qualification, and it's called MCOB. It's equivalent to a bachelor's degree. So for anybody out there that's graduated or graduating, working, you only really need 3 years experience in a good role in the built environment before you can start looking at yourselves getting chartered. And it's there to help people progress their careers. In the part of the world where I'm actually in Bahrain today, but some of the tenders are coming in, and they're asking for how many chartered managers do you have on your books to some of the consultants and contractors. So it is becoming more sought after. You join this way. You can go to the website. You can use the QR code if you can access that. It's just a quick, easy online form to register. Sorry. And then what you can do, you can actually, once you're logged in, you click on this little Find Your Pathway tool, and it will actually open up. You put your information in, and you explain your qualifications and your experience level, and then you'll start on your pathway journey. And this is what we cater for. We cater for students, cater for graduates, experienced professionals, educators. I know we'll have a lot of educators there. There's a 50% discount on fees for all educators as well. But we also have a leadership award called the Fellowship. It's equivalent to a master's. So we've got many people going for a leadership award as well. But if you're in the room and you're any one of these sort of categories, then please feel free to go online and have a look. And we got fees. Nobody likes to pay for things, but there is a fee associated with the membership for industry professionals. So you can get the information here. It's in UK pounds, but check out for discounts across the globe as well. I know we have a big connection with Sri Lanka with the Massey University as well. So there's a discount for people working in the Middle East as well, and discounts across the globe for different nationalities. And if you're interested in getting chartered, we're actually running a full extended session in the application form on Monday, and you're more than welcome to register. Unfortunately, it's a bit late for a lot of people who's on this call, but we would be delighted to have you with us, and we will record it. So if you register, you will be able to get a copy. And here's our contact details. So these are my direct contact details. If anybody here like collaboration, got my direct contact details. If anybody would like to start their membership journey, the most direct route is to contact membership experience at cob.org. And that gives you a little bit of a feel for what the Chartered Institute building is all about. And as I've said, we're just honoured to be part of this fantastic event. I can't quite see the room. I would love to be able to be there in person, but we're here to support you. I want you to feel like you've got support no matter where you are, if you need anything from the Chartered Institute of Building. So thank you very much for the time. By all means, enjoy the rest of the event. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Matt. And I think it's very informative because most of us here are building construction management experts and practitioners. So definitely your presentation is really valuable. And then I can see Georgia has shared links about different membership pathways as well as about CIOB. Hope you can use these links to educate yourself further. And Thank you very much again, Matt. Now, our next presenter is from Australia. He's an expert in transforming and then integrating digital technologies to the construction industry. And not only that, he has some publications about technical reports, I would say, rather than academic publications about integrating policies or developing policies, how we can integrate technologies to the construction industry. So he's the director of the Center of Smart and Modern Construction at Western Sydney University, and he has led numerous international recognized research initiatives in emerging technologies in the built environment. In fact, you don't believe me, his PhD in 94 is in AI. I don't know where he got that idea from, but then since then he has been doing this. And then without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Srinath to the podium. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chandana, for your kind and generous introduction. Good evening, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to quickly thank the organizers of this event, especially Dr. Chandana Sirivardhana and Professor Manti Sutrisna for their kind invitation and getting us got together to collaborate in these research activities. So without further ado, I'll just move on with my presentation, first introducing the Center for Smart Modern Construction at Western Sydney University, which is the center that I'm leading and the kind of work that we are doing. We have 7 research themes, as indicated there: digitalization, sustainability, resilience, management and economics related research in construction, design, industrialization, and education as the 7 themes. And then we are involved in a huge number of activities, some of which I will go through little by little where appropriate to introduce. We collaborate with industry significantly. So it's an industry collaborative research center. We don't receive direct funding from the university as such. We are pretty much funded through external research contributions, contract research, and various activities that we do perform for the industry. So our main theme is provide research as a service to the construction sector, and we therefore collaborate with many people for that purpose. Let's see whether this works. Okay, yeah. So as mentioned, so we did some work to the New South Wales government. This is the digitalization of construction, state of construction report that we did in 2021, published that for the New South Wales government. So that's a piece of contract research, and there are several other pieces of research that we've identified there to indicate the breadth of work that we do. We have about 40 PhD candidates working in the center on various areas of research within the 7 themes. As I mentioned, some projects are identified in here to give a flavor of the kind of research activity that we do. We have started our DigiCon lab, which is a dedicated digital construction laboratory, which is we opened in this month, operations in the laboratory, and this is basically the concepts and the plan for that. And within the laboratory, we are having virtual reality, image, basically scanning using LiDAR scanners and other various scanners, photogrammetry, various technologies that we are using in order to capture construction related images and then use that for training purposes, as well as use it for monitoring progress, integrating with building information modeling, and so on. We've got very sophisticated thermal image processing cameras, from which we are working on recognizing the thermal image conditions within common environments. So there's a PhD project that we are working on, which I will briefly explain as we come along. We've got the suite of drones, about 6 drones that basically has many of capacities. Myself, my colleague Samudaya, we are pretty much the capacity to fly drones.
So we can wait.
These are some of our humanoid robots and the robot dogs that we have in these activities. Coming on specifically for my pitch today here about digitalization in construction, we need to understand what is construction, why it is different. So this is what I would always talk about. I start here. Construction sector has unique characteristics. Size and complexity, we are massive in any country. It contributes to 7 to 11% direct contribution to the economy. Likewise, the indirect impact is massive. Construction, as opposed to manufacturing or many other industries, produces a product that stays in where it is produced in comparison to running in a production line. So it is constructed on site, one-off design. It's fragmented because there are many specializations involved because of the complexities involved. And the ease of entry and exit to the construction sector is what we see. When construction booms, you see so many construction companies, and then the bust cycle comes in, you see many go bust and then out of the construction sector. So this cycle, the cyclical nature is coming because it's low profit, high turnover industry comparatively to any other sector. It's because of these economic characteristics, and then the low capital requirement for starting a construction company, you see mushrooming of companies, and then again companies going into liquidation because of problems, supply chain issues, the complexities involved, which we will explore as we go along. And it is a labor-intensive sector comparatively as well. So these are the ones that make the sector unique, and therefore whatever we do have implications. So today we are looking at more digital aspects. For that, I need to take you through the industrial revolutions that has happened over the years. So we have in the 1700s, we had the first industrial revolution with the steam engines coming on board. And then we had the industrial revolution where electricity came about. And then, then we had in the early 70s, the IT revolution. So when I started doing my PhD, which Chandana alluded a little bit, I started in 93, finished in 97, and did a PhD on AI. So that's the time period. AI started even 10, 15 years before I started. People only hear about it now, but it has a long history, and we have come to this level. And most of you been using AI without you knowing. For example, smartphones, you have text prediction when you type. That's AI working underneath, but you didn't know it was AI, probably until now. But then that's current AI generation comes about because of the large language models that and the consequent generative AI coming on board and making it more publicly accessible, useful things like the GPTs that you have to work on and give you solutions. So beyond that, there have been very important things happening. So in the 21st century, we had the fourth industrial revolution. Now, if you look at the time periods, the first one took about 100 years, 300 years, then about 100 years, then about 40 years. And the fourth industrial revolution is coming about in about 20 years. And now we are about to enter the fifth industrial revolution as well. So what it means is the pace of technology development is rapidly advancing. So it's an exponential curve. So things in the next 5 years will change dramatically. And you have seen the advancement of smartphones and how that and internet change our lives. It would be 100 times faster than that with the AI advancements and so on that is happening. So construction sector still is the second least digitalized sector globally. Second least digitalized sector. Probably least even now, because agriculture was the least one, but they are digitalizing rapidly. So we have a lot to do. And we identified that construction sector has policy deficiency. So without policy impetus, you can't make the sector adopt digitalization. And hence, we were funded by the Australian Public Policy Institute to do some work to come up with a digitalization policy framework, which resulted in this one. So if you visit digicon.au, it's a live website, you will see our work. And this is pretty much the resultant report. I have a few copies here to hand over to people here. And there's a complementary other policy-related report with that coming as well. So that work basically identified how we can digitalize the construction sector and make it move faster in digitalization process. Moving from there, in this process, in our research, we have categorized digital technologies here into 4 to 5 digital technology categories. First one is the data capturing technologies. Data capturing technologies related to IoT devices, Internet of Things, sensors, things like that. Even your smartphone watches, the smartphones, they capture data. And that data capturing can be used for various purposes where you can make it work, capture data for you and use it in a very useful way. So smart homes kind of things you may have heard about. And my hobby is to make my home smart. And I can control everything from my home, every digital component at my home, light switches to anything from my phone, from here or anywhere in the world. Like that, it's quite a bit of automated processing can happen in there, things like that. Now, then we have data management and data storage, data communication technologies. These related to cloud technologies, and we have blockchain, which will talk a little bit as we go along. Blockchain is the technology that is used in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. The technology, underlying technology is that. It's a very good secure kind of technology, which can be deployed in, and we have done various prototype systems, applying it in construction, which I will talk about as we move on. Then we have data analysis technologies, which basically use big data. AI is a data analytic technology. It is for many purposes. It can be used for various things, including automation, but I would put it more on data analytics type, because it will give us direction as to how data can be visualized, used, or identify trends. Then we have more visualization technologies like digital twins, building information models. Everyone in construction knows about building information models now. Those things, virtual reality, things like that are the other set of technologies. Now, why I talked about this is that the next point in there is we use, we do these type of outcomes or calculations. Embodied carbon, you probably know about carbon emissions. We need to know how much of embodied carbon, operational carbon. We also work on embodied water as research. Again, I'll talk about it. You may have heard about circular economy. You would have heard about ESG calculations. In Australia now, companies over 5 million turnover has to report on ESG. Reporting is mandatory for those companies. Carbon trading, EPDs, environmental product declarations, these are all important elements for sustainability. Now, the point I was trying to make was all these estimates and predictions are based on static data. What do you mean by static data? Static data is data that you find in databases. And where do most of these data come from? Most of these data originated in Bath University back in the 80s through a research project. And then now extrapolated, multiplied, and done all calculations. And we get this data packaged in software and data books and various other tools. It's all static data, and they are not accurate. In the absence of real data, that is good. But my point is, we have the capacity to get real-time data. So why are we wasting time using obsolete data? We can use real-time data. And that's what I'm saying. We need to use real-time data to calculate, not really use obsolete data. When we looked at in deep EPD data, how EPD data, some of it originated by somebody sending an email saying our emissions for this particular product is this. And that's a bloody email. There's nothing there. Why? How can you guarantee that that's the a real outcome? So this is what we are using. In the absence of, when there is nothing, yes, even that is good. But we can capture. And that's where I was talking about data capturing technologies. The IoT sensors, the blockchain technology, all these can be used to capture data securely and effectively, and then move that in. So I've been warned there's only 15 minutes. There's so much to talk about. These are things, what data can do for you. Basically, issues with static data is what I was talking about. So I'll move on from there. And digital procurement. Now, this is important to understand because construction sector is heavily procurement dependent, right? So we had e-procurement, internet-based procurement, cloud-based procurement. Next stage is blockchain-based procurement. Why? because blockchain is the most secure data technology, which will prevent altering of data. So when data is entered or come into the blockchain, you cannot change. It is written on stone. You cannot change. Blockchain data cannot be erased, modified, or deleted. It can be superseded with another piece of data, but the original still remains. So that means you can track transaction histories right across from beginning to end. So that's the beauty of that technology, and that's what we are using in several projects. This is blockchain-based procurement, some of this PhD project. A while back now, we looked at how we can use blockchain to manage supply chains in the construction sector. Construction has one of the most complex supply chains. And one of the biggest problems in construction supply chains is that payments that do occur in construction supply chains are often delayed. And that leads to my next project, which basically we use blockchain to track payments across and make sure payment certificates and work certification happen in the blockchain. So I have a small, quick video.
Welcome to the demonstration of BuildCert, a blockchain-based work and payment certification framework for construction Australia. All authorized users can log into the system with their username and password. User roles include client, contractor, project manager, quantity surveyor, architect, and engineer. The All Projects page will display projects the user has access to. When a user clicks on View Project, they will see the project homepage with a timeline of recent activity and all data that they are authorized to view. For example, a contractor can view recent progress claims, quality certificates, payment certificates, tax invoices, and payment approvals of the project they are working on. A contractor can submit a progress claim by clicking on Create under the Progress Claims menu. They should enter the details and select the claim file with details to be uploaded. The blockchain transaction log can be seen at the bottom of the screen. The details of the progress claim can be viewed. The contractor can edit the progress claim data if necessary. The edit history of the records can be viewed as separate transactions in the blockchain. Once a contractor adds a progress claim to the system, the quantity surveyor can view the claim details. The required quality certificates should be listed as prerequisites for the progress claim. For example, this progress claim requires quality certificates by the architect and structural engineer. A payment certificate will not be issued until all the prerequisites are fulfilled. Quality certifiers will only be able to see the quality certificates related to the project. They can create a new quality certificate and upload a file with details of inspections and tests, and a file with details of defects if available. When the quality certificates are uploaded, the prerequisites will be marked as completed. When all the prerequisites are fulfilled, the progress claim status will be updated by the system. File should be uploaded. Then the data in the certificate file will be extracted by the system and the fields will be filled in automatically. The progress payment certificate will be issued and can be viewed by the contractor. The contractor will issue a tax invoice which will go to the client for approval. The client can view the tax invoice and click on the approval button. The amount can be modified by the client if necessary, and the appropriate approval status should be set before saving the payment approval. The details of all the information related to the progress claim will be displayed to all authorized users. All updates will be reflected on the project homepage as well. This prototype is a work in progress. Stay tuned. Welcome to the demonstration of.
So the point of that demonstration is that we have the technology, we can do it, and what we need is basically the procurement team or the design and construction teams to agree on to use the platform, and then payment certification happens, and then payments can be made on time, not in 3 months, not in 6 months, not in 9 months. It will happen instantly. and then payment, once paid, people will be responsible for the work done. If they don't do it, we can revoke payments as well. So all that is possible. We have blockchain and BIM integration achieved, which is meaning that we can now communicate between a BIM model and blockchain and make sure that the communication ensures data entered in the BIM model is secured. This is a project where we used for carbon estimating. As I mentioned earlier, we use blockchain to track carbon emissions. Now, this is real-time tracking, not based on database data. It is real-time emissions tracking through site data and getting that in the blockchain. And that will give us the actual emissions. Then we also developed a blockchain-based waste trading system. So that using the concept, somebody's waste is a resource to another person. And we can trade waste in that way, monitor waste, and make sure waste that goes to landfill is properly disposed, and the whole cycle is monitored. Again, we are using multiple technologies, sensors, IoT sensors to capture data. This is another project where we're looking at water, embodied water. The concept of embodied water is the water used in construction, direct and indirect water usage. All in the same way embodied carbon emissions are calculated, we can calculate embodied water emission usage. And Australia is a place where severe water shortages are there. And it's an important element for us to maintain secure our water resources. And that's something that we are looking at here. That project uses, again, tracking transactions through blockchain and using that to estimate embodied water. Some of our publications in blockchain, if you are interested, the first one is an academic publication, highly cited one. And then the next one is a bit more simpler document for any industry person, non-technical document, where you can download freely. Some of our publications, this project, we are looking at digital twin, basically replicating, integrating building information models to make, with sensors, to have a two-way digital twin, where things change in the digital model is reflected in the physical model. And when physical model as various aspects change, it is reflected back in the digital model. We're using circular economy. We are doing material passports using the concept of a material genome, meaning that the whole pedigree, the tracking of material from its origin to its endpoint in a building, and then beyond the building, during its disposal or maintenance activities, we can track all that. We've created a carbon trading platform where carbon trading can happen. So any emissions that cannot be reduced will have to be traded. So that's where we are using carbon trading there. That's the material passport project for. Then our other project, we are trying to capture ESG, environment, sustainability, governance related data being captured and then reported for construction companies. Again, we're using blockchain technology for that. We're also using these technologies like this project is trying to see in a room like this, different people feel thermal comfort in different ways. It is because of various things. Somebody may feel cold, somebody may feel warm, and in between all ranges. How could you achieve optimum thermal comfort levels in rooms? So we're using digital image capture to identify thermal sensation of individuals and average it to come up with, using AI, to come up with a better thermal average for a particular room. So that's a more AI related project. So this is another AI project. Here we are looking at how we can use, this project is trying to avoid disputes proactively. So many communications happen in a project. If we can use the communication to predict the possibility of disputes and warn people about it, that will help us to make sure that there is intervention beforehand, and therefore prevent disputes happening. So this one, I have a small video to present if I have time. No?
Yes.
Okay.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Developing a dispute prediction digital system using machine learning. Conducted at the Center for Smart Modern Construction, Western Sydney University. Resolving dispute before it happens. Is it real or just hype? Let's take a closer look. The construction industry is under increasing pressure. Across the world, construction projects are experiencing significant cost overruns and prolonged delays. In severe cases, projects are abandoned and contractors become insolvent. One of the major reasons behind these challenges is dispute between parties to contract. One construction dispute reached a value of $1.1 billion. Most of these disputes begin quietly in day-to-day information exchange between project parties. In practice, most construction disputes are closely associated with project documentations and formal communications. Documents such as emails, contracts, change orders, reports, meeting minutes, and site diaries often constitute the foundation of disagreements as they record costs and time entitlements, delay events, and daily site activities. This study proposes an automated dispute prediction digital system that continuously scans your documents, your emails, your project communication, and warn you of potential dispute before you send them. This is an email interface of a document management system integrated with dispute prediction models. As a project manager drafts an email about an overdue payment, the system automatically analyzes the content and provides dispute alert before the message is sent. With one click, a dispute prediction report is generated. The system shows a dispute index of 5, indicating a very high likelihood of dispute. This may lead to a payment and finance-related dispute, and key entities are also highlighted. Thus, the system alerts the construction professionals on the likelihood of dispute and the potential issues in the text before the project communications are exchanged. The results: reduced disputes, better business relationships, and successful projects at the end.
So that basically gives you an understanding of how AI is being used. So we are using natural language processing, not the GPTs, but natural language processing algorithms to predict disputes. So we have an app. The app will capture all that information and prompt you when you're using emails about your communications and use of language. So then that helps in preventing disputes or warning about possibilities. And this can be used for minutes of meetings, project documentation, and all that. So to conclude, just some of my publications that are involved, which we talk about most of these. Cost studies of buildings is one of the most, I shouldn't say myself, but it's quite a popular textbook in quantity surveying. We are about to, beginning of next year, we'll see the next edition of it. And then end of next year, we'll have the contractual procedures next edition coming in. And the other book is basically a collaboration with Massey. So there's a few staff from Massey University who's leading that one. I'm a collaborator as well, but that one, again, then managing information technology projects was another project that we brought about. This is our journal, which is a highly ranked journal in construction built environment area. So anyone interested, academics involved in, you can use as a publication avenue. And finally, just wanted to give you a thumbs up about OBR 2026. In November, we are hosting the Australasian Building Education Association's 49th conference at Western Sydney University in Parramatta campus. We'd like to invite you to come and join us, learn a bit more about what we do, as well as it's an international conference where we're expecting over 200 participants, and you will have opportunity to interact. And we are at the same time running the OBR Awards 2026. This is the first inaugural OBR Awards recognizing researchers in the built environment for their achievements, various achievements in industry collaboration, teaching, research activities, and many other performance related to construction research. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. I know you have a lot to present. Since we have a limitation of time, we'll move on. And thank you again for your valuable insights and then presenting of various technologies available and their applications in the technology in the construction industry. Now you might have seen that who are people in the audience who are in the room. We have two robots here in the room. One is we call Kuri, the Maori word for the local dog, and then the posh version, of course, from Auckland University, we call I think the Pluto. So both of them are from the same company. So different companies are producing them at the moment. So they call a Chinese company called Unitree, and then there are Boston Dynamics MIT version, and different companies are producing different versions. And then there are different price points as well. Based on the price point, the capabilities are also different. Now, what we're going to do next is our project team, my colleague Harold, and then Na from Auckland Uni, Napoleon from Computational and Mathematics Department, Massey University, and also Silpa, Senan, Reno, and Martin, of course, our tech genius. I think he's somewhere, yeah, here. So together, what we are trying to do is we are in fact doing different experiments to explore is the technology. In fact, what we want to say here is we are not selling this product. We are trying to explore the possibility whether is the feasibility of using this technology to the construction industry, and then what are the gaps that we can fill using them. So then, without further ado, I would like to hand over the mic to Harold, my colleague. So Harold, over to you, and then we can pass it to Na and Martin and Napoleon. Yeah.
Thank you, Chandana, and thank you, Professor Sunath, for the excellent insights. We're really thankful for the collaboration with Western Sydney University. But unlike them in Australia, they're very advanced in the robotics side. Here in New Zealand, we're a bit on the conservative side when it comes to adopting new technologies, but I think it's we should just embrace it. We should embrace these changes, and so our team that's the mission of our team. This dog that we have right now, it was just purchased a few months ago, but we're excited to share with you some of the small achievements that we've achieved so far. Start with a small a mini project that Chandana and I started, but we're happy to have with us on board Dr. Ravi Reddy from the School of Health Sciences, whose focus is on occupational health and safety for the construction industry. And then we had Dr. Napoleon Reyes and Dr. Martin Brenner from the School of Mathematical and Computational Sciences, looking at the programming and the hardware part of it. And then eventually we were joined by Dr. Na Zhou from University of Auckland, who also had a bit of experience deploying their robotic dog in construction sites. And then we have with us Silpa, who is our research assistant. The reason we actually started with this robotic dog initiative, we actually started from the data analysis automation side. So we started looking at how do we automate generating insights from photos? How do we automate the insights that we can get from those? I come from a post-disaster assessment side. So if you give the model a photo of a damaged building, it can tell you how much damage, whether it's severely damaged, it's minor damaged, or it's moderately damaged. But we saw that there's an opportunity adopting this into the construction side. There's a lot that we measure visually, right? So for instance, So for instance, if you look at a construction site, you measure progress visually. You check for hazards visually. What else do you do visually? You do quality assurance visually. So there's a lot of visual information that we process, and and we do that every single day in construction site. And that's actually the best use case for platforms like this. Embodied artificial intelligence works best when you have that context, repeated processes. And so we just jumped the gun and purchased this robotic dog that we have at the moment. But we know that it's not an easy step. So our team is looking at three things. So we're looking at how to get the dog autonomously navigate through the built environment, whether it's a construction site, whether it's a post-disaster scenario. And we're also looking at the possible challenges and opportunities in actually deploying that in a construction site. So that's a different thing, just getting it to roam around a controlled site versus if you already deployed in a live site where you got equipment, people moving around. And then we're also looking at prospective use cases, such as what I've explained before. In addition, actually, to the visual sensing that the dog can offer, we can fit it with other sensors. So for instance, dust sensors. We can fit it with noise sensors. We can fit it with gas sensors. So you can imagine the possibilities. Shanda mentioned that we're not here to sell the robot, but right now we're exploring all these possibilities, and we're thankful. We're thankful to Massey University for supporting this first step to it. The other thing that I want to highlight before I pass on to my colleagues for the initial for the reporting of our initial results. This is a research project, so we're able to gain more funds by generating research output. So that's why before you enter the room, we gave you a survey form. So we'd appreciate if you could fill out the form for us. For that form, we're looking at challenges and opportunities in adopting robotic technologies, specifically robotic dogs in New Zealand construction. For those joining us online, we are also sharing an e-version of the survey, so we will reshare it now through the comments. Yeah, so we're hoping for your support so that we can get more funds. Our head of school is here. Yeah, we're hoping to get more funds so we can do more things with these dogs. And we were also recently joined by Professor Rino Lovreya from who is our AI genius at the school, and Dr. Janan Feng, who's our AR and VR expert in the school. So there are plenty of possibilities, but obviously we can only do so much with our resources. Anyway, I'll turn you over to. So we'll first go through findings in our previous deployment in pilot sites, which our colleague Dr. Na Zhao will share, and then it'll be followed by our initial findings on getting it to autonomously navigate around, which will be presented by Dr. Martin Brenner and Dr. Napoleon Reyes. It's here. Yeah.
Cool. Right, everybody can hear me? Good. Right. So today, first introduce myself a little bit and probably next slide. So my name is Na Joy, and I come from University of Auckland. Today I'm gonna give you a speech around the robotic dogs in New Zealand construction, lessons from industry collaboration, research, and also workforce perceptions. So I know the time is a little bit limited, and we also got the discussion panel. So I'm gonna move the workforce perceptions. Hopefully we're gonna talk about the results over there. So first thing first, who am I? So I completed my qualifications at University of Canterbury and also University of Auckland. And I used to work as a construction engineer and also a structural design engineer before. And I'm currently working as a professional teaching fellow part-time at University of Auckland. And I teach a lot of courses related to the different technologies that Professor Serena just mentioned before, AR, VR, digital twin, building information modeling, robotics, automation, a lot of those. And of course, Internet of Things, cyber physical systems, who are the main driver of the industry or construction 4.0 technologies. So my research area is more about, well, Internet of Things, cyber physical system, and smart sensors. That will be related to my master degree thesis. And also I have done a little bit of research of the robotics. That's why I'm here today. So, and also my PhD thesis is more around the Internet of Things enabled sensing systems for monitoring the environmental hazards on site. And that one is especially related to the health, well-being, and also safety of construction workers on site. And also behavioral and decision-making series. So if you do have any questions, I know the time is very limited over here. So if you do have any questions regarding anything I'm going to talk about today, feel free to drop me an email through this email address over here. Okay. Right. So the next thing is, why do we need robots in the construction, right? Some people may think that we need robots because they look fashionable, right? They look like a dog and they can do certain things like actions and dances. But actually the primary need for the robotics is because the productivity is quite low. So if you look at the McKinsey research over here, you can tell the productivity growth in different sectors for the last 20 years or so. If you compare the result of the construction and also the manufacturing sector. And manufacturing sector is all the where all the industry 4.0 different technologies coming from. So if you compare the construction sector and also the manufacturing sector, you can know that the construction sector, the productivity growth is extremely low and extremely slow as well. Okay, so that's the reason why we need robots in construction industry. Next thing, so why robotic dogs? So it has quite a few benefits or benefits over here I mentioned, but there will be a lot more. First one will be mobility in unstructured environments. Second one will be autonomous navigation, LiDAR, and also imaging capabilities. Those two generally about the 3D scanning and also the LiDAR kind of technology. And also imaging capabilities will be around, for example, can capture the images as well as videos. Okay. And the last one will be repeatable data collection, because robotic dog is kind of robotics, right? So it can do repeatable data collection process. And we have two robotic dogs at University of Auckland. This one is the Unitree A1 robotic dog, which is the oldest version of all robotic dogs for Unitree people. And this one has got a 3D scanner mounted on top of it. This one is called Pluto. This one is not. So this one is a Go One robotic dog. This one has got a robotic arm mounted on top of it. So what it can do is that it can pick up things. It can remember what you have shown it before, and then it can copy it and do it again. So you can program it, right? And it has certain functions. I believe Napoleon and also Martin gonna talk about the what kind of technology it has later on. So I won't touch on this. So next question will be, can robotic dogs provide practical value on New Zealand construction sites? So my topic is about industry collaboration, right? So that describes the journey of our industry collaboration. So always first come first is the needs, right? So we have got industry people to come over to say that they are quite interested in site monitoring digitalization. And we also, from academic kind of point of view, we have our research needs. So how do we get better, safer, and more consistent site data? And after that, you need to design the research, right? So we have designed some assignments and also powerful projects for students. So what we are thinking is that because the students will be the one who are going to use those technologies and who know a little bit from the classes. So, but in the end, they will use those technologies in the industry. So we need to teach them. And also we want them to touch and feel those different things, especially robotic dog, and let them to try them out. And then they will feel, okay, I'm probably going to adopt that in the end, right? Second thing, right, the surveys and interviews on the workforce or industry perceptions. So what academic people think about it doesn't really mean that industry people or construction worker will think about the same thing. So we need to collect their, ideas or perspectives towards the new technologies. That's what we do. Okay, next thing, technical validation of robotic dog data capture. So normally what we're gonna do is that we let students to try those different technologies in a smart digital lab, more with a more controlled environment first, so that we don't really need to apply for risk assessment plan, so that they can work around it and play around it. But finally, we need to validate that whole process on the construction site again. Okay. Next thing, university open day to demonstrate technologies. That one is very important because sometimes there's a gap between industry people, what they're doing, and what we are doing at the university. They know some technologies a little bit, but they don't know much things like us. But also they don't really have experts in the industry, but we are. And they probably want to see what kind of things we are doing, what resources we have, what kind of people, right, we have. So I think that one is extremely useful to fill in that gap between the industry people, what they're doing and what we are doing, so that we can showcase what we have got at the university and seek for possible collaboration with them. Okay, the next thing is once you have got the research done, we need to get access to the site, right? If we want to test anything. So for the industry people, they need to get the risk assessment first. Not only the existing risks, but also the new risks we're gonna bring to the site with the students and the dogs, okay? And also research planning and induction, right? And then for the university internally, ethics application always, right? I believe you guys know it quite well. It takes a long time. At the same time, the field activity plan and risk assessment form were approved by the head of the department. So this process, to be honest, is going to take quite a long time. We're going to sit together, we're going to work it out. And also that kind of forms or activity plan going to protect not only the staff, but also the students from any health and safety risks. I'm going to talk about the last 3 ones in detail, so I want to really cover that over here. So first thing is student assignment design. So this one is designed to let the students to trial and also use the Unitree A1 robotic dog, which has got a 3D scanner mounted on the top of it. And in a controlled environment in our smart digital lab. So I'm gonna start this video. So what we need to do is not really to control the robotic dog, to move backwards, forwards, left and right. The only thing I need to do is to give a direction, arrow of it, and that's it. So it can do the whole 3D scanning process by itself automatically. And by the same time, it can also do autonomous obstacle avoidance, which means that it can detect in real time of the surrounding environment as it goes. And it will try to avoid any obstacles in front of it. Okay, so actually the Smart Digital Lab is a rectangular lab. So that is entrance. That should be a rectangular shape. It's not because there are some students standing over here. Okay, and we have also got a round table and some chairs around it. Here we have got one student standing still all the time, and also another bicycle and also television over there. So I'm gonna accelerate the whole process. You could probably see that quite a lot of the dots appeared and then disappeared. That's because some students really wanted to check if the autonomous obstacle avoidance is running. So they want to see, for example, if I jump in front of the robotic dog, whether it can see me, recognize me, and try to avoid me or not. So it worked perfectly. But because they are also master level students, they need to do research. So they also need to write a report on the barriers to robots adoption in construction, robot application in construction projects, and also robot-enabled BIM model development. I'm going to talk more about that in the next 2 slides anyway. And also the impact on construction project management. Okay. So in the end, that's what we have got. So that kind of project was done around 4 years ago. And we used the oldest version of the Unitree robotic dog. At that time, that whole video was shown actually on the app. And it's a pity that we can't extract data from it. We can only visualize the data. But because it's a 3D scanner, we know the results will be point clouds. So if we can get it out, that will be the input we can use later on, right? Right, here is a case use for the automatic scan to BIM for indoor environments or indoor mapping for 3D scanner. So I want to introduce the scan to BIM theory over here. I know some of you probably come from the industry, you don't really know this quite well. But for the 3D scanner, we have different types, right? We have standalone ones, normally used, or a majority of you probably gonna use. But we also have got a handheld model over here. This one is extremely helpful if you use it under the table, right? If you think about it. And also mounted model, which means that 3D scanners fixed on more like a stable kind of platform. But if you think about it, if we have got a robot with wheels or a robotic dog, so we can actually have the robotic scanner, right? And then how are we going to deal with that data? We designed another assignment for the students. So if we do have 2 scanners or 2 robotic dogs, which can collect 2 sets of the point cloud data, then we can use some software to deal with it. So for University of Auckland engineering students, we're lucky we have got the Trimble software. So the Trimble people, they do produce both the hardware and the software. So they produce both 3D scanners as well as the point cloud data executing kind of like software called Trimble Robotics. So the Trimble people has invested the world's first Trimble technology lab at the University of Auckland, which means that all the university students, engineering students, can use this software for free. Okay, so they can actually combine those 2 different sets of the point cloud data from the 2 3D scanners, and then they can clean up the noise data. Then they can form the Revit model, and that will be the input for the building information modeling. Okay, so that will complete the whole process of it. Another one I want to talk about is the Brands Founders research. So that one named the de-risking the uptake of new technologies for effective change management. So that was done by me, my supervisor, PhD supervisor, Alice John Richards, and also my colleague, Jie. And also we worked with Victoria University of Wellington. And they have got a very big robotic arm over there in their lab. So they can do certain construction activities, for example, painting and also drilling, quite a lot of those. And also we have got Colohan innovation people, Nick and also Tim come over. And thank for Roy Davis for the lab coordination. So this one is one of the case studies we have done before. So taking the robotic dog to the construction site. So this was done on September 8th, 2022 at the new Recreation Center of University of Auckland. It was the Hawkins construction site, okay? So what we have done is that we demonstrated the Unitary A1 robotic dog in a more real-world environment on the real construction site. And also this is the first time we tried that on the real construction site for that dog. And also a questionnaire survey was designed to gather the quantitative data and also administrated on site. And also we collected the perceptions, workforce perceptions from 10 site workers from various roles. And if you want to see the result, I can show you in the discussion panel anyway. And also I supervised another group or path for students last year about the digital data collection infrastructure for construction progress monitoring last year. So the case study we have done is to test the effectiveness or evaluate the effectiveness of the robotic dog data collection infrastructure for construction progress monitoring. So what we have done is to use this robotic dog over here, Go1. And I need to say that we have agreement about it, so I can't really talk about the results they have got. And I can't talk about which company it is, but I can describe what they have done. So they used to have like a stick, long one. They hold one end of it. And the other end, they have attached a device to capture the videos and also the images. And they put that device and level that at the same level as human's eyes, so that to form, for example, human is actually visualizing everything. Okay, so the construction worker is holding that steadily, enter every single room, and then turn around and then go out and enter another one. If you think about that way, for the construction progress monitoring, it takes a lot of time. Okay, and also a lot of labor. It's not really cost effective. So what they are trying to do to see is that they want to see whether a robotic dog can carry that device. So they actually put two magnets, one magnet attached to this device, another one attached to the robotic dog. But they have concerns. One concern is that whether the robotic dog can capture the data up to the roof, because if you look at the height of it, it's about 40 centimeters to 60, right? Whether it can capture the data up to the roof is a concern. Second concern, when the robotic dog is moving, right, using 4 legs, so the data capture might be not be that steady. So that is another concern, right? But in the end, what they have got is that the data is very accurate, right? Reliable as well. But think about scalability, we can't really test it, right? Because only just one construction site, you can't really say that it can be feasible for other construction sites. But integration is something we find it out. So achieve at a basic level. But if you think about it, it's not really real-time data collection because you kind of extract the data after the whole process is done and then upload that to the platform they have used. It's not really real-time data transformation. Okay, so that is the results we have got over here. And that's the references. Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening. I hope everybody can hear me well. We're coming from a computer science perspective. And in this presentation, I'm going to introduce our robotic platform. This research was made possible through the involvement of Dr. Martin Berner, and he's the main developer, and I'm the one supervising the research. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the robot dog's hardware, the components, the perception sensors, as well as the main algorithms used for localization and mapping, as well as navigation, and then some actual robot demonstration. Sorry. Firstly, I'd like to describe what is this Unitree robot Go2Edu. The one with the number 2, that's our dog. This is, of course, coming from the School of Built Environment. This is actually the research version of the Unitree line of robot dogs. And if I'm not mistaken, this is actually the most expensive one. It's the latest. I'm going to talk about the different components. In its body, we will find the main controller that will contain the 8-core CPU, battery, communication modules for Wi-Fi, 4G, Bluetooth, Ethernet, and input-output interfaces to allow the robot to gain more gadgets. For instance, we saw earlier that NASA robot comes with the servo arm. So this robot can also have that, as well as other components such as GPUs and RGB depth camera, and so on and so forth. Next, let's have a look at the head. You will find the perception sensors. We have the LiDAR, RGB camera, lamp, microphone, speaker, and per leg, you will find that there are 3 actuated joints, and each of these legs will have a foot sensor so that the robot will be able to detect whether it is in contact with the ground. Optionally, there's this top payload where you can install some extra sensors, like, for instance, a high-grade 3D LiDAR or a GPU for more powerful AI processing, RGB depth camera, and a servo arm. Now, I'd like to explain a little bit how this robot is able to sense the environment. Later, I'm going to show that we were able to successfully do so. It is using a LiDAR sensor that can be found right at the mouth of the robot. This LiDAR emits laser pulses at a rate of about 20,000 pulses per second. And so these light pulses will eventually hit some objects. For instance, if it's hitting a wall, it's going to bounce off, and it's going to be detected by the receiver of that LiDAR. By measuring the time of flight, the robot will be able to work out what is the distance of that point from itself. And so we can generate X, Y, and Z coordinates, as well as the orientation of these points. By emitting thousands of these light pulses, eventually, the robot will be able to work out whether or not there's, let's say, a wall. So it can perceive what is going on with the environment solely by relying on this LiDAR sensor. LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging. Now, when a robot needs to operate in an unknown environment, how can it navigate safely if it doesn't know the map? So I'm going to provide a short introduction, just at least an overview of one of the main algorithms used. This is called SLAM for short. This is very famous among engineering practitioners. Stands for simultaneous localization and mapping. That means the robot can generate a map as it traverses the exploratory world. And it can also work out the location of the robot as well as its orientation within that system of coordinates. Now I'm going to define another term. When we say mapping, what do we mean by mapping? Let's have a look at the following scenario. Let's say you're walking along the street and you would like to build a map. And all that you have is, let's say, your phone, and you want to locate where you are in that map. So you can use the GPS within your phone. And if you see, let's say, an orange house on the left and a green house on the right, then you can jot down some notes in your map based on the location of your robot within that map. As you progress, let's say you turn to the left and you find more objects, let's say a house with a red roof on the right and a white fence on the left, then you can keep on recording all this information. So the robot will make use of its memory. It can do so in real time, and eventually, after traversing all the possible space within that exploratory world, eventually it's going to end up with a map. Now, once you have that map, this robot can then make use of that map for localization. So for instance, let's just say that the phone battery dies and so there's no more GPS. The robot can then make use of other perception sensors, like for instance, the LiDAR that I showed earlier. The LiDAR will give the robot an estimate of the distance of the objects within its field of view, as well as the orientation of these objects. So we have the house with the red roof further on the left and the white fence on the right. Then the robot can compare these landmarks with the map that it has and then work out where it is in that map. So this is what we call localization. Now, apart from localization, navigation is also another important task for the robot. Localization is not navigation. Navigation means computing, for instance, for an optimal path to a goal, to a target destination. So given the robot's current position, it should be able to work out what is the best way to get to the, let's say, orange house. So earlier we saw that having a GPS is essential for building a map, but this robot here doesn't have a GPS. And a GPS will only work if you're outdoors. But we want to be able to make the robot work indoors. And this is when the algorithm SLAM comes into play. So no GPS, but using the LiDAR sensor, the robot will be able to compute again for the distances between itself and the objects around it within its field of view. So let's say orange house on the left, green house on the right. It can compute the distance as well as the orientation. Now, as the robot moves, it can also record the number of steps or the stride that it takes. In engineering terminology, this is what we call the odometry. The robot can keep track of the number of moves, the motion that it has generated, and it can combine the inputs coming from the LiDAR, that means the distances and orientation, as well as the odometry to work out where it is in this map. And while the robot is traversing the environment, it's going to keep on tracking all these landmarks that it has seen previously. And so it will know if at some point in time, if it finds new objects in that exploratory world, it's going to be able to know where those objects are relative to itself and relative to its starting position. So this is all the technology that we use in plain layman's terms. And we will see that it actually works, okay? I'm going to describe now the actual system. So this works in real time. We can collect data, feed the data to a remote computer, do any processing we want, and also navigate the robot autonomously. So I'm going to describe first what system do you have. We're making use of multiple sensory information. The LiDAR, for instance, will be returning what we call point clouds, 3D point clouds. And in this right window pane, we've got the robot's position. And we also have the obstacles identified from the map. The obstacles will be marked by these black dots, while the gray dots correspond to the freely traversable area. So the robot knows that those are no-go zones. And the robot will be emitting the LiDAR, the laser pulses, okay, laser signals, 20,000 per second, giving us this multicolored dots. The colors depict the height of the obstacles. If, just to make sense of what's going on here, if you can recognize, if you're from Mass University, this is the foyer at the School of Built Environment. We can see that the robot can detect these dots. The light blue dots, for instance, correspond to the sofa here, if you can recognize that. And so to make sense of what is going on, we are also projecting on screen what the robot can see through its internal camera. At the face of the robot, there's an RGB camera there. And apart from that, we're also projecting the view coming from an external camera so that we can locate exactly where that robot is. So this is the robot, this is the field of view. It's firing all these laser pulses. This is the sofa. This is the sofa in the point cloud. And this is the sofa in terms of the robot's perspective. So now that we know what's going on, now we can run the demonstration. So we did some experimentations, and I'm going to just run my video here because there's a lot going on. So we just did this a few weeks ago.
Initially, the robot is given an approximate map of the environment and placed at a designated start node. It then performs SLAM localization by matching map boundaries with point cloud data continuously collected from its LiDAR sensor. As shown, the multicolored points approximately align with the walls and surrounding furniture within the LiDAR's sensory range, indicated by the yellow region. Once the robot is localized, a button is pressed to command it to move. As it navigates, the robot successfully follows the waypoints one by one, progressing toward the goal, which is represented by the white water bottle. As can be observed, the robot continuously progresses towards the white water bottle until it arrives there. This experiment requires careful unitary calibration for a balanced gait, along with point cloud cropping, noise filtering, and range filtering before using SLAM or NAV2 for navigation. Achieving this performance required multiple rounds of experimentation and code refinement. In the second test, the robot is instructed to move directly towards waypoint 0, which represents the origin point. As shown, the robot first turns around and then moves towards waypoint 0. For global path planning, the robot uses Nav2's SMAC Planner 2D, which is based on the A-star algorithm. For local path following and obstacle avoidance, it uses the regulated pure pursuit algorithm. As can be seen, the robot eventually reaches waypoint 0 and then reorients itself according to the target pose. To further test the robustness of the navigation system, we instruct the robot one final time to follow the waypoints towards the water bottle. As depicted by the progressing yellow dots, we can see that the robot engages its LiDAR sensor to scan the environment for obstacles as it navigates. Eventually, the robot successfully completes the task again.
Maybe I should mention that out of the box, the robot comes with a remote, a wireless joystick controller, and it comes with some pre-programmed robot actions. So with the push of a button, you can make the robot dance, you can make the robot jump, and so on and so forth. But for real-world applications, like for instance, disaster response, search and rescue, industrial inspection, you really need to come up with a task-oriented, automated implementation of a process, and that requires programming, and as we can see here, a lot of experimentations as well as AI technologies. And for this application, we are using a combination of optimal path planning, a global path planner, as well as a local path planner. And these tasks are crucial for many practical applications. So this is just scratching the surface. We've just begun. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Napoleon. And as he said, we are still just scratching the surface, and we just started this project. And then you might be wondering what we can do with this. So then that is the obvious question we also have at the moment, and that is what we are trying to solve. And then next presenter is very important in New Zealand context, because WorkSafe New Zealand is the regulator, and they are setting the policies and boundaries how to have a proper health and safe working environment for the construction workers, as well as regulations for the industry to follow. And without taking much time, I would like to invite Jason John and Madan Chow from WorkSafe New Zealand to talk about the policies and regulations around the construction industry, because if we try to introduce robotics or robotic dogs or a humanoid robots or whatever, we are adding another layer of complications. Maybe we are adding another series of hazards to the industry. So how we can navigate that? So Jason will talk about New Zealand context and their boundaries. And then one point Prof. Srinath mentioned is that policy deficiencies. So how we can fill that gap. Over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Dr. Chandana. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Jason John. I'm an area manager from WorkSafe New Zealand, New Zealand's health and safety regulator. Tonight, obviously, I'm just going to give you a very quick overview of the New Zealand's health and safety regulations as they currently sit. Again, it's at a very, probably a very high level, but a very brief overview. I also just want to give a very quick caveat. Those that are obviously within the industry will know that the health and safety regulations are in the process of change. So I won't be able to talk about what that will look like at this stage, unfortunately, because that's obviously still going through Parliament. But I will give a little very quick point out to one of the things that looks like is going through legislation. Okay. Chandana. Which one will go? Oh, just like that. Yep. Sweet. Excellent. Cool. All right, so today I'm going to be covering off, obviously, WorkSafe and its construction sector focus, a very brief and quick overview of duties under the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015, and then obviously having a look at robotics in construction and what that might look like from a health and safety perspective. So just first off, let's start off with some statistics. So those that are familiar and that work in the health and safety space will know that in New Zealand, we still have a pretty poor record when it comes to health and safety. And there's been no real improvement in health and safety, even in the last 10 years since the legislation came in, although there are some really good signs that it is on the improve. Over the period, probably since 2011 to 2013, there's been, 2011 to 2023, there have been 102 lives lost in construction. And as you can see there's a mix of trades and sectors that feature very highly in some of those statistics, and also some of the mechanisms. And so with WorkSafe, what we do focus on is those real high risk activities that are going to lead to life-changing harm and also fatalities as well. Vehicles and mobile machinery feature very highly in a lot of these statistics. So as we see with robots, they're not just stationary, right? They move around as well. Falls from heights is still one of the key areas as well that we're focusing on as well, that leads to a lot of fatalities in the sector. And also hit by falling objects as well. So something else to maybe think about as the experts in the room start looking at some of their designs and what you're doing out there. All right, I just really want to start off with a real life situation. So health and safety, what is it really about? It's about people, right? Construction still relies heavily, and will for some time, on manual labour, people out there working with tools. In this situation here, this is a builder that had been working in the sector for about 40 years. He had never had an incident a day in his life, worked really hard, building up his business, things like that, working on sites. He was working on this scaffold system, if you can sort of make it out in that picture, where the metal frame is with a single work platform. Now, he may have been working perfectly fine for several hours, maybe even a couple of days with that sort of situation. But unfortunately for him, while he was up on that scaffold, he received a phone call from a client, creating a bit of a distraction. He took one step backwards off that plank without realising it. It changed his life. It not only changed his life, it changed his work colleagues' lives and his family's lives and those people in the communities that obviously rely on him. Okay. Fortunately for this gentleman, he did survive, although he had to be revived by the ambulance service on his way into hospital. He was also very fortunate that at the time of the accident, unfortunately, he was working alone, but fortunately for him, a police patrol car was actually passing by, and the officers actually noticed him lying on the ground. So again, just a bit of a real, puts everything, I think, into a bit of perspective. While we're all out there, doing really innovative and really important stuff, progressing New Zealand's economy, getting businesses to work more efficiently and effectively, at the end of the day, we can't forget that it's about the people that are actually doing the work. So now moving into the legislation. What we're still encountering with a lot of businesses is a lack of understanding of what the legislation really means. As it currently stands, the legislation is actually pretty good in that it gives a lot of flexibility with industries and businesses in how they manage health and safety. What a lot of people don't realise is that everyone has a role to play when it comes to health and safety, right? It doesn't matter whether you're the worker doing the high-risk activity, the business, or a designer or a supplier, right? You have responsibilities under health and safety in New Zealand, and you also cannot contract out of health and safety in New Zealand, right? So quite often we'll come across, when we do come across incidents where we're looking into investigate or even an assessment, we do see contracts where people are trying to contract out of their health and safety. While it's important to identify and work with people, it's also important to identify who's responsible for managing health and safety and specific tasks, those high-risk tasks. So at the very top of basically, the pyramid in terms of responsibility, it's the business has the ultimate responsibility around health and safety. The role of the business is to ensure that it has effective systems to manage health and safety risks. Okay, so that's the business. If you think of a registered company, Bob the Builder Limited, for example, they're the business. Senior leaders within the business also have responsibility. So when we're looking at senior leaders, we're talking about people that make those important key decisions around health and safety and resourcing that health and safety. So if you're in charge of the purse strings, for example, you might have some duties to ensure that there are systems to manage, or that there are processes to ensure that there's effective resourcing to manage those health and safety risks. Workers themselves also have duties under the Act as well. Their main responsibility is to ensure that they are not creating health and safety risks that either hurt themselves or potentially hurt other people that they may be working with. And then you've also got others. So the others is the one that catches, is basically the catch-all. So if you're not a business on a building site, you're not a leader in charge of that business, or you're not a worker, and you're still on that site, you're probably going to be the other person. So that could be the designer, the architect, salespeople, visitors, WorkSafe inspectors, and other people, right, that might turn up on a building site. Their main responsibility is ensuring that they follow reasonable instructions given them by the PCBU while they're on that site, and that they're also not creating risks to themselves and other people. So very similar to workers, but there are also slight differences there. So when it comes to building sites, there is clear examples in the Health and Safety at Work Act, and basically that tells businesses that they must work together when it comes to health and safety. Okay, the duty is when there are multiple businesses on a building site, is they must consult, cooperate, and coordinate those activities to meet their responsibilities. So if you look at the situation where maybe there's been an agreement about who's going to manage or look after health and safety, if you're not the person that is that person that's looking after the health and safety, what you should be doing is making sure you're getting the reassurance that the person who is managing the health and safety is doing what they say they do. Quite often in tough economic times, as everyone is going through at the moment, the shortcuts that first come to the fore of a business is usually around health and safety. Workers taking shortcuts because they think that they're doing the business a favour when in fact they're not. They're actually creating a bigger risk to the business, not only in terms of workers potentially being harmed, but obviously potentially those financial risks when something goes wrong, or if something goes wrong. Now, the level of influence is really important as well. So, for example, if you're a designer or an architect, we would not expect you to be making sure that the worker who's actually using a handheld grinder is actually the competent person, right? That duty, again, goes back to the person that's in control of that worker, the business and their leaders, things like that. However, an architect or a designer might be putting those instructions about health and safety matters into their designs and the plans and the contracts. They're giving advice, right? They're meeting their duties in terms of upstream duty holders, in terms of identifying a risk and telling the client basically what those risks are and ideas, basically, how they should be managing those risks. Now, if the business then decides that, well, actually, I'm not going to follow that, I might do it a different way, that may be okay, as long as they are managing the risk. But if they don't follow those instructions and there's an issue that comes out later on, well, then they may have a problem. So the real important part around health and safety in particular on big construction sites is that cooperation and coordinating of activities, consulting with each other and trying to work out what is the best way forward. So not only are we keeping the workers safe, but we're also working efficiently and effectively. I sort of go back and talk a wee bit quite often about scaffolding used in construction. Now, when the HASWA Act or Health and Safety at Work Act came in back in 2015, there was a lot of noise made from particularly the residential sector about scaffolding being used on residential sites. They didn't really see the need of it. But you wind the clock forward a couple of years, they've actually come back to WorkSafe and said, actually, it's a really good idea, and we've mandated it in all our sites, basically. Because what they've seen, obviously, is the improvements that good health and safety governance leads in terms of efficiency and obviously keeping workers safe. So some of the feedback we got, for example, is by having scaffolding put up, we had less accidents, right? Less accidents on site. That's great. That's fantastic. That's a good start. But also it led to the efficiencies around the workers. They were moving around site more faster because they had the confidence when they were working at height that the controls that were in place were actually effective. And this actually led to, from my understanding from the residential sector, around about a 30% increase in terms of timeframes around house being built. So a reduction by around about 30%. And again, that leads to other efficiencies, right? You can better spend your money and reinvest it in another part of the business. Reducing training costs also, because you're not getting workers leaving because they feel unsafe. Workers at the end of the day, they want to work with the employers. They want to do the best by the employer. But at the end of the day, if they are not feeling safe, they will look elsewhere, they will move on. And you will lose that experience and that knowledge. And we all know that when that happens, there's a bigger risk that is created, okay? I generally tend to say when I used to go out speaking to businesses that, quite often from what we see is there are basically three types of workers that will have accidents. There's the novice, person that doesn't really know what they're doing, the trainee or the apprentice, the experienced person, because the experienced person has got the knowledge, but they also know how to take shortcuts. And that's also a bit of an issue. Then you also get the experienced person that's been given a new task. So you've got a mix of experience, but also a lack of knowledge because maybe they're not familiar with that task they've been appointed or given. So again, really important to go back and talk with your partners in business and on site to actually understand what are the risks and how are they being managed and who's actually do I go to if there's an issue or I've got questions around health and safety? Who do I actually need to speak to? Our preference is that if you see an issue on site, the best person to actually talk to is the people running the site. And you may do that through your own immediate managers, site supervisors, and escalate it through that way. Now, if you're still having issues and you still don't think those issues are being addressed, then by all means, come and speak to WorkSafe and we can help you out and support you with that. So again, just coming back to the overlapping duties. So really it comes back to planning. Personally, this is my own thought, I don't think New Zealanders are actually that good in terms of planning. From what I see, particularly in a lot of construction sites is why these obviously are construction plan. It's when something changes or something goes wrong, the plans go out the windows, there's no contingency plans. And in New Zealand, it seems to be a wee bit of an issue that we don't really think about contingency plans. We wait till something goes wrong and then we react. Unfortunately, by the time we react, in terms of the safety of a worker, it may be too late. Okay, so again, look at those plans, think about contingencies, and also what's going to be, moving forward, what's happening, what needs to change. Identifying the risks, and again, working together to agree what is the best way to actually manage the risk. May not necessarily be scaffolding. There are other ways to manage, falls from height risk, as an example. Define the roles and responsibilities. As I said earlier, you cannot contract out, but you can define who is actually responsible to actually take the actions that are agreed upon. But the key thing that quite often we do see from WorkSafe's view is that when something's gone wrong, one of the causation factors is that somebody has sat in an office and actually hasn't checked up to make sure that the controls are actually implemented by the subcontractor. So really important that you do, make sure you've got those checks in place. Then again, it's an ongoing cycle. Again, you've got to consult, cooperate, and communicate, because sometimes when you implement a control, it may create other risks and unforeseen risks as well. So again, you've worked out a plan, an action plan to manage health and safety. Everyone knows who's responsible. Everyone knows who's responsible, and then what's going to happen if something goes wrong or if something changes. And then we implement something. Again, we've got to do probably have another review of our system to see what's happened. And again, if anything does go wrong, it should then trigger a review of your health and safety system. So robots in construction, this is a really exciting territory, I think, for New Zealand. Obviously, it's been adopted overseas. So from a health and safety perspective, these are some of the key risks that you really need to think about if you're going to start using robotics in the construction sector. Physical risks. What we mean by physical risks are being contact or struck by the moving part of a robot. Crushing or trapping, okay? There are hazards around crushing and trapping as well. Mechanical sensor failures, projectile hazards. So those are some of the physical risks that you may need to think about. Then you get into technical and environmental risks. So they could be electrical risks, control and programming errors, environmental interference, such as dust and radio frequencies. So anyone that's flown in and out of Auckland Airport in the last couple of years has known there's a massive amount of construction that's going on there as they're building new terminals. So one of the things, if robots are being used in there, that they would have to have considered is radio frequencies, right? Last thing you want to be doing is bringing down a big plane or even a small plane, right? So again, understanding what are the risks that are being created, and then, how do we manage that? You've got psychological and health risks as well. So what we're looking at there is mental stress, anxiety, distraction. Okay, robots coming into New Zealand, it's a new thing for a lot of people. I'm thinking of a young school leaver doing his apprenticeship, sees one of these fantastic little machines out here working away on his, while he's up here banging away, and stepped off something I shouldn't have, or tripped over, wasn't paying attention, had an accident. Really unfortunate, for that person, and obviously nothing that we want. Increased noise exposures as well, and then you've got ergonomic risks as well. So thinking things like exoskeletons, workers able to wear exoskeletons, and then what are the ergonomic risks around that, as an example. Human factors that need to be considered. Again, always bring it back to the human factor. This is what these are the people that we're trying to keep safe. So unauthorised access wherever the robots are going. I've got my colleague here, Madan Chug, who's been with WorkSafe for quite a number of years. He's seen a lot of robotics used in the manufacturing sector, used really well, I might say, in the manufacturing sector. They're really well ahead of the game when it comes to controls to keep people safe in robotics. So, a lot of controls around there in the manufacturing sector. And what you see there in the manufacturing sector, wherever robotics are used, they actually isolate the area. So trying to keep everyone out that shouldn't be in there. Non-routine task risks. So thinking there around maintenance, okay? Everything needs to be kept maintained. Construction sites are very tough on all equipment, right? So, you know, robot looks really great today, but 6 months down the track, it could be bashed, battered, and had all sorts of things sprayed on it and what have you. People need to maintain it. So there needs to be controls when it comes to maintenance as well. Training and supervision, pretty much a given there. People obviously need to be trained and supervised while they're going through that training if they're operating that piece of machinery. The robot commissioning is a really good stage where you need to really focus on the controls around the robotics in particular. Others in the vicinity. So again, coming back to those distractions, right? In construction sites, you can have a couple of hundred people on a construction site. So it's also thinking about the others, is that robot creating a risk for those other workers on that building site? So moving on from the legislation now. So this is one of the standards or a series of standards that actually form part of safety standards when it comes to machinery in New Zealand. So this is not an exhaustive list, but it is definitely current standards that may apply to robotics as they come out into the construction site. Okay, so that moves me on to probably the last part now. So one of the things that looks like is definitely changing in the legislation is what's been called safe harbour. So approved codes of practice are being developed or looking to be developed through industry, obviously with support from WorkSafe New Zealand. So one of the things that you may need to start thinking about, I think, as a sector is maybe looking at some sorts of approved codes of practice in terms of how to use robotics in the construction industry and what standards you would expect to be met as part of that. Okay. So just finishing off now. So when it comes to health and safety, think of this cycle. So again, it's planning your work, knowing what the activities are, knowing the people that are involved in those high-risk activities. And then when it comes to doing, making sure that the controls are put in place, knowing who's obviously managing those controls and what those systems and processes should look like. Checking them, that's a really big one, okay? Make sure that those controls are actually implemented because again, that's where the shortcuts start to be taken. I'm going to use a cheaper control, but maybe it isn't as effective, okay? Or appropriate. And then when something does go wrong or isn't done as well, you need to do something about it. Don't worry, she'll be right, okay? We can't, she won't be right, unfortunately, because somebody will suffer from it. And, learning from it, that's the real key thing, right? Nothing is ever perfect in life. It's taking those opportunities to learn is really important when it comes to health and safety. Quite often from my own experience and Madan's experience, when we're looking at accidents, it's that basically fobbing off or minimising an issue. A worker shouldn't have done this. It was the worker's fault. What we routinely hear back during an investigation is it's not whether or not a worker can or can't do something, it's whether they should or shouldn't be allowed to do it. And then the other thing is, workers are always trying to do right by a business. They understand that, businesses are tight, they're trying to make money as well. They want the business to succeed. And quite often they may be taking a shortcut because they think they're doing the right thing for the business. I talk about an example where several years ago I was investigating an engineering workshop in East Tamaki, and one of the workers was a welder, he's a fabricator actually. He wasn't a tradesman, he was just a fabricator. He was working on a low-level gantry crane, and one of the magnets failed. What happened was there was a pin inside the magnet that failed, and it led to the magnet failing. He thought, well, I've got welding experience. I can weld that pin back together, save the company a lot of downtime and a lot of money. Unfortunately, he didn't report it back to his supervisor, and that led to his accident. When we looked into it, the fault was actually because there were two dissimilar metals that he had tried to weld together. So again, that lack of knowledge led, unfortunately, to a serious harm incident, but was very preventable. Okay, again, because people weren't given those parameters in which to work safely and when to escalate things, how to escalate things. All right. So that is it for me. Just some more information again. There is a QR code there for the ACOPS work that has been done with WorkSafe and MB. So if you do have any interest and want any updates, do check out the website. I would also recommend that you check out the WorkSafe website. If you want to keep up to date with anything in terms of the legislation changes or even guidance, you can register on the WorkSafe website to actually get those updates. So please do visit our website. We get a lot of good positive feedback from a lot of various industries about the information that's contained on there. If you can't find what you want, feel free to call WorkSafe on 0800, our 0800 number, and we'll put you through to the right people. I mean, we're really wanting to engage with the whole sector at the moment to get a really good understanding of how we can support the industry, particularly in these really tough times. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jason, for highlighting the importance of regulations and standards, and not only that, importance of updating these standards to match to the improvements happening in the other part of the industries. So while we are transitioning from the presentations to panel discussion, so we have refreshments available. Please, I know now it's time, we are getting ready for the dinner time as well. So therefore, please, we have food. Please, please feel free to have some refreshments, tea or coffee over there, and then maybe take a toilet break if needed. And then meanwhile, I would like to invite some of the experts, but all of the audience here are experts. I would like to name some organizations. For an example, we have SiteSafe, Chasin said, and also some representations from small and medium enterprises, as well as major construction companies, as well as WorkSafe New Zealand, of course. And like what we, the panel members that whom I invite in the front are just the representatives that we can start the conversation, and then we can open the conversation to the audience with more to get more wider engagement. So first, I would like to invite my colleague Ravi Reddy, who is an occupational health and safety expert. Ravi is also a partner of our project. Please, Ravi, while you are walking to the chair, I would like to throw you a question so then you can think about it. So then, because Jason has highlighted several risks and hazards which robotics or these technologies could bring to the construction industry. And at the same time, as an occupational health and safety expert, so what are the negatives of having a electric gadget in the construction environment, which is already hazardous, which is already very dynamic, which already chaotic? And at the same time, on the other hand, what are the benefits that these robotics could bring to the industry? What are the opportunities we have from an occupational health and safety point of view? Yeah. So at the same time, I would like to invite Professor Srinath Pereira also to the panel, and also Prof. Ruggiano Reno also. So then maybe I will ask while we are waiting, Reno. You are the AI expert in our school, and then I would like to call you, rather than calling you expert or AI enthusiastic person, the person who is exploring the opportunities and all that. So from a AI point of view, what are the benefits or what are the opportunities we have?
It's a booming space, and it's the hardware and the software, it's catching up in a way that artificial intelligence is going to make this technology going much faster than what we can predict. I see a lot of possibility also for the affordability to create and develop some prototype, even if you don't have any advanced background in programming like me. I'm not a coder. I learned by myself coding using YouTube 20 years ago, pretty much. And since then, it's becoming easier and easier to develop piece of prototype to test those robots. In fact, it can become also a hobby you can have with your own kids to brainwash them and convince them that science matter. So it's, or engineering as well. So it's something that I personally haven't started doing automation myself with robots like this, but I've been doing automation for almost 10 years with telescopes. It's much more advanced and less forgiving than a robot, because if you miss few millimeters, you're completely out of the galaxy. And things are getting much, much more mature in terms of hardware, software, and the possibility to communicate with machine using natural language, using what we call generative AI. It's much more than just writing code. There is a lot of advantage also to create interface with the machine or computer interface. The things that we see now on website where you need to fill a form, most likely it's gonna disappear in the next 3, 4, 5 years, because it's gonna be a conversation with a web application to get your information and move forward. And the same is with the robotics. It's gonna become much more feasible for everyone to create something that is just customized, that does exactly what you want. I hope he answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reno. And then Prof. Srinath, who is also an expert in this area, I would like to ask the same question from you. What are the opportunities, and at the same time, what are the challenges that we have? Because these technologies are growing exponentially in other industries, but the adaptation, as you said, we are far behind. And when it comes to New Zealand, we are even behind. So then, so what we can do about that and how to bridge this gap, and then what are the benefits that would bring to the construction industry?
Yes, AI, popularly known now as artificial intelligence, is not a singular technology. It is a collection of different technologies. And for ease of social understanding, it is pretty much known as artificial intelligence. Technically also, it is a class of technologies. So therefore, so AI doesn't mean it's one thing. It means many things. And therefore, its applications are many as well. But what I see is, rather than single technology advancing, it is the convergence and integration of multiple technologies coming in together to make practical applications really work in the construction sector or any sector for that matter. However, I would caution everyone, society, and anybody you ask for disadvantages also. AI is not without its problems and dangers to the society. There are many problems and dangers to the society, starting with current form of AI is backed with data centers. And in Australia now we are crazy about creating so many data centers. And each of these data centers use significant amount of energy and water. And as I mentioned, Australia is having water issues. I'm not sure exactly New Zealand might not be as bad, but water is a scarce resource globally anyway. So every ChatGPT type of interaction you make, you are consuming few teaspoons of water. And how many interactions we do have and how many people do use it. And you can then extrapolate and see how much of water consumption is there. So these are things that we need to remember. I have been in AI for 30 plus years now. And I know both sides. And we have to think about both sides and make conscious decisions and make sure that it works for us. So I would suggest that as an important criteria. It is definitely going to transform how we work. If you imagine how social media has transformed the way we communicate, way we live in the society, AI's transformation would be 100 times stronger, impactful for the society. And by that, I mean not only society, industry, economy, all that will be impacted. So it's like, I would say it's like a knife, you know. Knife is a very good, important tool. But if we abuse it, you're going to get hurt. And if you don't have rules and discipline in using it, you're going to get hurt. Same with AI. And it's no different. Therefore, it's very important to understand what it can do, how it can do. I'm not scaremongering or anything. As such, like any other technology, it has huge potential. Not like any other, unlike any other technology, it has enormous potential. But then it comes with its limitations and boundaries and impact on the society as well. So we need to think both sides. For construction, we are the least digitalized sector. There's enormous things that we could do to make it more productive and useful. And therefore, these applications and research is the main thing that we need to look at how we can apply, and the kind of thing that you are doing, Reno and others here doing quite good bits of work that's really useful for the local sector, local industry.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. And then in the audience, we have NCDA General Manager Kevin Dorothy, who is one of our adjunct professors. I would like to throw the same question because he's from the industry to get the industry perspective about adapting robotic technologies, drones, or AI. What is the how the industry would receive these technologies? How ready are the industry for these technologies?
Well, thanks for the ad lib question. Well, to be honest, we're not ready as a sector to receive it yet. I guess we're still waiting, on the developments and understanding the various use cases before we invest. So I think, to answer your question, I mean, there's still, a reasonable amount of preparation that we need to do as a sector before we can, even contemplate using it. There are differences as well. Obviously, the vertical sector's got different use cases to the horizontal sector. And we look at some of the, the early adoption around data collection and how you might do that. And we sort of, we can see the benefits in that, but, we're also looking to the future. I guess one of the things, for us is, we've been really tested on productivity and sort of the increasing cost profile across our projects. And we are, we're really keen to look at innovation and technology and adopt it to try and sort of, drive advancement in that. But just at the minute, I guess, we're still grappling with the use cases and how we might take that forward. So, really interested to hear about the work that's going on and some of the innovations. It's fantastic and, really encourage you to keep going. But, there's more work to do, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much for that insights. Because here we have Dave, who is managing the laborers and the workers, because we are introducing different technologies, regulations. At the end of the day, they have to. I know I have put you on spotlight, which you didn't expect at this point. But I thought too, because you are representing the bottom layer. And that is very important. Oftentimes we forget them, and then we try to from top. We try to throw things to them, and then they have to follow it, which we don't understand what the difficulties they are facing. In your opinion, how ready the workers are for these kind of technologies, having robots moving around and drones flying around them and AI, all sort of things, while being productive, while following sustainability and safety guidelines?
Yeah, hi. Well, technology, I mean, instead of having 4 people sweep a big area, you can get a guy whipping around on a machine and he can sweep an area in half the time, and that's going to be efficient and that's going to be more valuable to building sites. So you see it more and more. We're on IKEA, and in the old days would have had 10 guys sweep an area, but now you got one guy on a little sweeping machine. So that's more technology. That's not so much robotics. But, there's a lot of I'm not an expert on it, but, I believe there's some technology in robotics around steel fixing where they can put little spiders. And I think for those back-breaking jobs, it's got to be a good thing. I mean, the hard guys that do it probably love it, but, some of those back-breaking jobs, to have the robotics doing those sort of tasks is probably a good thing, good for WorkSafe and ACC maybe, and stuff like that. I think you're going to need people to run these machines. So I think in offices there's going to be more people and more of that. You don't want to do people out of jobs. But, I guess technology's coming at a pace where you just need to keep up with it. But there'll be a lot of people that aren't that smart, that like to dig a ditch, and they're never going to be running a robot. And so, I don't know, there's a bit of a, give and take of you've got to have people working and putting food on the table. Mm-hmm. But I think in my industry, I deal with labourers a lot. So I don't think robots are going to take a lot of that. Labourers get in there to do the hard yards and dig and lift pits and stuff. And so I don't know if those jobs are going to go. But no, I think bring it on, I think it's the dogs that are walking around are probably more looking at, quality and stuff like that. And I think there's lots of companies using AI generated, processes to get their teams working better. But that's not robotics. That's more AI and stuff like that. But I don't, I've got no problems with robots. I think we're 100, we're still, you say it's the curve is going real fast, but I don't think we're going to have 100 labourers running around building sites sweeping up in my lifetime, even if the curve is going to go fast. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. But I think it's exciting. Yeah, I think it's exciting.
Thank you very much, Dave, for that very practical point of view. Once you said, Prof. Srinath is dying to provide a feedback.
Just to make a comment. to put it into the put it bit more contextualized and put the point. Many mining companies in Australia now have autonomous mining machines. They don't driverless, autonomous, and they do dig the earth and bring it over for cleaning. So I think construction is a good possible application for those subsequently.
Yeah, but when you're digging a big hole and you're chucking a whole lot of rocks in a truck, I mean that's easy. And I've been to Coca-Cola where they're doing robots for putting, we did a tour of the Coca-Cola factory where they had 30 people working in the area where they put all the cans of Coke on a pallet and put them on the truck, right? Well, they don't have anyone there anymore. It's all robots. And the robots pick the stuff and they send it down on a conveyor belt, and another robot picks it all up and puts it on a pallet and shrink wraps it and throws it on a truck, and now it just gets... And there's been millions on the robots. It's done a whole lot of people out of a job, but those people are still working in different departments there. But on a building site, you've got concrete, steel, you've got plumbing, you've got electrics, you've got insulation, you've got soundproofing, you've got audio, you've got tech, you've got painting, plastering. It just goes on and on and on. And so unless we all start living in concrete boxes, there's just so much going on.
Yeah,
in a building
thank you, Dave. Yeah, so I really like this engagement. So please continue.
Yeah. No, because I'm gonna agree actually, because even though I said we're not quite ready for some of the robotics on some of the horizontal construction sites, we are. We really want to push for more advanced manufacturing in what we do, and that's where robotics can really come into it. Modularization, standardization, all that sort of stuff. So it is coming from that perspective, and we're getting ourselves sort of on that pivot point where we want to start to move, into that. And I guess the other one you mentioned, sort of automation and connectivity. It's not construction exactly, but certainly, within the transport sector, that automation of vehicles and the connectivity of vehicles is sort of, semi-robotic in nature, and that's something that we are basically on the cusp of moving into as well. So I said we weren't ready, but we're sort of ready. Yeah, that's one answer, I think.
Yeah, Luis, can I set?
Hi, everyone. I wear several different caps in the industry, so most of you in the room probably know me in some different capacity. But I would like to say that we've actually already used robotics in New Zealand quite extensively in emergency situations. Down in the Hawke's Bay flooding, we used drone footage to survey those bridges. We used a lot of technology from a drone and robotics perspective in that space. With the Wairau Road floods not so long ago, we used robotics and drones to check what was happening there. So I think to say we're not ready is probably a bit inaccurate. I think we are ready, and I think the industry is ready for it. I probably going to put myself out on a limb to say I think the biggest resistance is us as human beings. I think industry is ready for the change. And I think it's our responsibility as experts in the room to help facilitate this change.
Right. Thank you very much, Luis, for that point of view. Dave mentioned about back-breaking. Harold. Please introduce yourself and then, yes.
Are they working? Yes. Great. Kia ora everyone, Emma Fisk from NZTA. I work with Kevin. I'm really interested in a couple of things. One is the meshing and the digital surfaces. So 30 years ago, I was surveying using a theodolite. When we did Puhoi to Warkworth motorway 5-10 years ago, we were sending the drone up weekly. We are getting to the next level where this becomes a daily event, and that's really, really helpful. So knowing where stuff is, really, really useful to us. And having that granularity gives us a lot more accuracy on site. Probably the other thing I'm particularly interested in is what's happening under the ground and in places we can't get people to. So particularly interested in tunnelling, pipes, deep excavations, working at height, and how we can get accurate quality assurance and information into the model, in particular into the BIM model. And I'll throw out one challenge that if you could solve it, we'd all be delighted. How do we know where stuff is under the ground? Because that's probably one of our biggest challenges. And a good start would be, at least let's figure out what's under the ground before we cover it back in with the ground. So let's start to build that digital understanding of where stuff is. So there's a lot of applications I think robotics could help in there. And I think getting into pipes is a really obvious one.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And then I want to come to Ravi because one point which Dave mentioned about the back-breaking activities. So that is exactly where you are coming into the picture, as well as I would like to go to Charson's Steve, Dr. Steve, who is a part of the Ergonom Bros over there, maybe after Ravi. So Ravi, please, the question again about the opportunities and challenges as well as.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on things that have already been discussed. I won't labor on it. We've got Dr. Stephen Colosi there. He can talk about ergonomics and human factors. But you made a very good point about confined spaces and things that we do not know. Instead of putting a human being at risk, we eliminate that risk by putting in a robot there. How we do that, I'm not sure. So I think that's the initial stage of the work that we will get into. And I think Jason really highlighted all those potential risks that we introduce into our work environment. I mean, look at those two lying there, the trip hazards, right? I almost tripped over it, getting a coffee. But the other thing that I was thinking about these robots are assessments. Now, if you're talking about noise assessments should be done noise at ear. Now, these robots are barely 40 centimeters over the ground. And as you move even 2 meters away from the noise source, noise dissipates, right? So it potentially introduces a measurement bias. So if at that distance, it might be calculating noise much less than what the noise at the ear is for workers. So we are now minimizing risk. So those are potential limitations of what we're looking at. But obviously, these are things that will be looked into as we develop robots and get a better understanding of it. But from, I think, a health and safety perspective, I am probably with most of you, do not know much about robotics, programming, development of AI and the like. But I think we need to work together. As generalists, my job's mostly teaching health and safety advisors, officers, looking at the Health and Safety Act. And as Jason was saying, it comes down from our perspective, people, right? So we're about engagement, participation, and getting people together, not just for the sake of enforcing the legislation, but at the end of the day, going home safely, right? But that's a whole different thing. And any solution, I think when I started working with these guys, I was thinking, we know the problem. We do highlight problems a lot in our field, but we need to get into more solution-based interventions. And again, when we're looking at solutions, I'm talking about training. How do we build training? When introducing robots in environments, I think from a New Zealand context, we also need to bring in the cultural considerations, right? The ethical considerations, and how we progress with it. So even though they are early days, I think as a sector, as a field, there are opportunities. How they progress, we don't know.
Yeah, so Ravi, Prof, I will come to you because Ravi mentioned about training. So here we have SiteSafe, one of the leading training partners, training providers in New Zealand for health and safety. I'll come to you, Steve, because Chris and Ben, I would like to hear from you. how we can use these robotic technologies or emerging technologies to improve the training and also including AI as well. So have you already considered about them to improve the training and then your path forward?
We certainly are at the early stages of looking how we can incorporate AI into not just training, but a number of our products. And we already are applying it in some situations. We talked about construction sites earlier, and obviously with the robotic dog going around a construction site, and that's a future thing. But already we have humans in the form of auditors going onto construction sites. We're using AI to because they gather a lot of data when they're on site, photographs in particular, using AI to add a commentary to those photographs, which is then reviewed by the auditor before things are finalised. But there are other applications, particularly more in Ben's space, in terms of it's in consideration in terms of assignment marking and so forth, but that's still in its infancy. I guess while we don't, I mean, as an organisation, we're obviously very supportive of anything that'll help the construction sector improve health and safety. We've talked earlier about the possibility of robotics being used in environments which aren't suited for human beings to work in. There's obviously also situations of possibly providing some sort of ongoing continuous monitoring, which obviously for a human to do is very tedious and tiresome, and probably a human being over time would lose focus. So there could be some examples, opportunities there. There are some considerations, as Jason touched on earlier too. Whenever you introduce a new piece of equipment or technology, whoever's introducing that, you're potentially introducing a risk. So you have to, or hazards and risks. So you have a responsibility for identifying those and then putting controls in around those. So we talked earlier about robotics being used, and they have been used for a number of years in manufacturing, as we know, but they tend to be in areas that are isolated off from human beings. So there'll be things that will need to be considered about, if the robotics, because let's face it, that there's a computer chip in there somewhere. If something goes wrong, what's the protection? Does the thing go into a fail-safe mode and those types of things? But yeah, I mean, we see there's some potential opportunities. In terms of technology, we talked about technology earlier and industry's adoption of technology. In some ways, there's got to be a commercial driver. I can remember seeing the first time I saw a directional drilling machine was in a remote part of the Netherlands in the early 80s, and we didn't have them in New Zealand at that stage. Then a lot of work needed to be done, particularly in the telco and the gas and electrical undergrounding programs. Within 10 years, contractors had directional drilling machines everywhere, and the reason was there was a commercial driver. So yeah, that's probably another consideration. Did you want to add anything, Ben?
Oh, I don't really have too much more to add, but I mean, I think some of the advantages. Hey, okay, there you go. Some of the advantages potentially of robotics or Internet of Things is, I suppose, a collection of real-time data on site. I mean, a lot of stuff that we hear from people is, particularly when they cost a job, they put the documentation in. The documentation is current at the time of pricing. So I suppose how that information comes out in real time, but I suppose the challenge is how do you manage that and communicate that to the workers on the site. But I think that could be a real advantage moving forward.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. And then, Prof, you mentioned about real-time data capturing, and then maybe you could please continue with the earlier thought that you had.
Just wanted to comment. It's very good to understand the use of drones for surveying purposes in real applications in New Zealand. Really good information for us. I'd like to elaborate, give a couple of examples of specific use of robots. There are many purpose-made robots, these are commercial ones. The purpose-made ones being used. For example, Sydney Water is using robots to detect leaks in pipes, large ones, and distribution network issues and corrosion problems. Sydney Council is using robots to identify corrosion in the Sydney Harbour Bridge, for example. So there are real applications. They're just two examples. There are many others, but they are purpose-made specific robots only for that task, not general purpose robots like this.
Yeah, Prof. Again, I would like to ask, like, obvious question a lot of people ask is that when you have drones, you mentioned about purpose-made robots as well, but like, let's say robotic dogs for an example, right? When you have drones already, what is the value addition which a robot would bring to an company compared to the amount of money they invest on this robotic dog? Because drones are already there. Drones can do the most of these things that the robotic dog would do.
Drones carry its own risk as well. So you can't fly a drone inside here, but you can get a dog walk around here. So you can scan this environment without or with less hazardous situations. Sorry. So that is a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rino, would you like to add something? Or Ravi?
Yeah, no, they have a completely different purpose in some stages, and there are a lot of restrictions for flying drones. Like even in this campus, good luck, because we have a military airport around. So every time it's so much paperwork, and you can't do automation because according to the law, you need to always have it in your field of view. You can deploy them automatically. We try to even think about a project like that, but from a law point of view, would have been a disaster. Instead, they are much more friendly animals that can be deployed without much of issues. An issue that is we haven't mentioned, but it's becoming more and more an issue all around the world is the batteries.
Yeah.
We are surrounding ourselves by so much batteries, and the thermal runaway of one of these batteries, it will be perfect for the 4th of July. You can just go on the internet and see how much energy you can release just using the battery of a smartphone. One of those can do a lot of damage in a construction site or in enclosed environment, especially if we decide to start using them. So I think we need to start monitor the batteries and have a much more strict regulation. Like I can tell you that in China, where I travel quite often, they have much more strict battery regulation in terms of power banks. Last time I was there, they throw away my power bank and said it's not compliant with the Chinese standard because they have so many accidents of thermal runaway of power banks that now they could take it in account in a much more strict way. And I believe that also these friendly animals can become a dragon quite easily, especially in a construction environment where you can easily get punched. So we need to think also that those animals, if they need to be deployed in a construction environment, they need to have a specific shielding because they are in an environment where it's much easier to be damaged from a battery point of view and create hell.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at the time as well, it's almost 8 p.m. and Samu already have a humanoid robot. That is the next version of the robotic dog. Samu, what is your and then at the digitalized lab at Center of Modern Construction at Western Sydney University, what is your experience working with the humanoid robot? Like, are we there yet to replace the construction workers, or where we are?
Okay.
And also about other technologies that you are.
Yes. Question is what purpose we are looking for? It's for the, like, as a simple example, bricklaying, yes, we can simply replace. But there is nothing called in the generic robotics or human robot to replace a human. However, if you want to specific tasks or monitoring, or maybe if you want to get LiDAR scanning and point cloud to BIM model conversion, so we can make a deploy and with the general routine things, and we can collect. And previous question regarding drones and the robotic question. So each technology or each solution, there are some advantages and disadvantages. Simply think about it, maybe infrastructure project or civil project. It's maybe like a couple of kilometers or maybe. So if you want using a robot, it's really slow process going through this process and scanning or something. However, if you can simply deploy a drone and you can collect data very quickly. Or if you want to monitor something, maybe it's maybe a railroad or maybe a road or bridge or something if you want to monitor. Same time, there are a lot of regulation related to the operating drones in the, I hope in the New Zealand and Australia, we have a lot of rules, regulation about that one. Almost every country has a civil aviation rules about operating drones because it is some kind of the health and safety. There is risk and also some kind of security, privacy, and those kind of the risks are there. So there can be some good application in that sense. And other side about robots, it is compared to previously mentioned, very safe health and safety. And beyond that point, there are some we call as the cobot or collaborative robots. They can work with the human. So it's similar to human working in the same environment. Maybe when you walk, you can hit something like another human can be happen. But these robots are more safer than that even. They avoid those kind of situations. Those are purposefully designed for working with the human environment. So there can be some issues can be happen, technical, but compared to it is a very limited health and safety risk with these cobot type of robots. Yeah.
Thank you, Samu and Jason and Madana. They are the representatives of the regulatory agency, and then they do a lot of inspections at sites. So, in your opinion, based on what Samu shared, from a regulator's perspective, you already shared certain information, but any other perspectives, both of you, Madan and Jason?
Sorry. Just introducing, I'm Madan Chuk. I'm one of the inspectors who works based in Menakau office. So little bit intro that I'm civil engineering graduated in 1984. Started in reinforced steel structures, but since 1988, I've never been in construction industry. So left the occupation, obviously, and then slowly integrated with health and safety. So coming back to make it short, coming back to the robots and drones, at the end of the day, all these are automated new technology machines. Right? These are no different than the technology we started, the revolution we started from the early days. We had hazards and risks in early days. And as the technology improved, like in the engineering industries, we had CNC machines. Those machines were initially, they were fatal incidents, and slowly the computerizations and programming picked that up. So these things, these robots and drones, they all have their own risks, and the risks are dynamic. They are not static risk. You cannot define the risk straightaway. This has to be in relation or relevance to the environment these are deployed with and what's happening there. So what the law requires is basically to do a risk assessment thoroughly in that environment. Some controls in that environment may be perfect, adequate, effective, but the same control in another environment will not be effective. So it's a dynamic, it's a changing with the technology, it's a changing with the application. So the main thumb rule is do your risk assessment, see the controls, and talk to your experts if these are effective or need to be readjusted according to the environment. So that's what from WorkSafe point of view. The regulation 30 in WorkSafe is very clear. The entire safety rotates around risk management.
Yeah,
that's the key, and that's the Bible of health and safety.
Yeah, that's a very valuable
that's
point.
my
Yeah.
point of view. So
because all depends on the information and data that we collect. Jason, yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with what's been talking about, and really good kōrero this evening, talking about the different aspects and the positives coming, that the robotic innovations can bring to the sector to improve health and safety. I think if you look overseas where robotics have already been implemented, talk about bricklaying, 3D printing, heavily in the manufacturing sector, very well advanced. But as Madan alluded to in the conversation here, it's about doing that risk assessment, making sure that it's done, seeking the advice, and then obviously following up on that advice where it's appropriate. Talking earlier, just coming back to also about the batteries as well. That's an emerging trend, right? And that's something that, everyone is still trying to, wrap their brains around in terms of how to address that. So again, WorkSafe is really wanting to work with industry, work with the innovative sector to actually understand, what's being done, what's being looked at, and also to support the industry. That's a big part of our role, is to support the industry so that they're making the right decisions to improve health and safety, but also those economic benefits to the businesses and also to our country.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jason. I would like to open the floor to these questions, last probably 5 minutes. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm a health and safety advisor in the oil and gas and construction industry. Our environments that my team work in are usually very, very hazardous atmospheres, and I'm excited about this technology. Hopefully you're coming up with an intrinsically safe model that would really help us. We do a lot of work, obviously, underground. So to your point about knowing what's underground is critically important to us. We don't break ground unless we know what's there. And the technology now that is available for us to use, let's just say there's lots of room for improvement. I wonder if at some point we will get to a stage where ground penetrating information can reveal pockets of vapor in the ground to save vapor clouds inundating someone. But then in saying that, there's still a long way to go. Are we ready? Yes and no. Some of my guys still get excited at the use of a gas detector. So there's a lot of hearts and minds that need to be changing. At the end of the day, nothing is ever going to replace the human intuition. I don't think robotics will ever do that. And coming down to risk assessment, your point, a risk assessment is done by a human being. That human intuition is critically important to making those judgment calls. Robotics, at the end of the day, is the information that you feed them. So it's a qualitative control. It's a quantitative control, data-driven, not a qualitative control. But there's still a lot of potential. I can see technology like this helping in emergency rescue, emergency services, confined space rescue, actually making it safer for our emergency services who, let's face it, are a vast majority of them are volunteers who put their lives on the line every day for us. This technology will actually help progress and improve those tasks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited about this. There's good and bad.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Like once you said that about the human intuition, like according to Economic Forum latest that data about the professions getting least affected by the AI are one of two professions are risk managers as well as project managers, because that is being, you need human intervention over there. So thank you for that insight. Without talking to Charles instead, Ogo brothers, Dr. Steve, in your opinion, robotics or AI or these exoskeletons or whatever the technology we have at the moment, how would you take that from that as a specialist in ergonomics?
Hi, Stephen Colosi, Human Factors and Ergonomics professional. It's a big part of our field, being human factors and seeing where the user fits in the loop. It's really interesting with automation. I was involved with the introduction of the glass cockpit technology for the Hercules when I was in the military for the Air Force, and the amount of the kind of older pilots that didn't get technology and thought it would never really take off in New Zealand is really a precursor to the attitudes that you said, Louise, that we just need to take it on board and think beyond what we have. Last year I was in Beijing with Tsinghua University. We did a tour of a electric car manufacturer called Li Autos. It was the only time that that factory closed in the whole year, and the only time that a human would come into the factory was when a Faro arm couldn't pick up the screw that came through a certain hole in the ground. So there's always humans there, and me and my human factors colleagues were clapping and celebrating that there is hope yet for humanity, that we still need to pick up the screws for the robots. But I think definitely I agree with a lot of the sentiments here. Construction is one of the longest lasting jobs in the world. I mean, you got right back to the pyramids, and there's a reason why that some of those core skills may never be replaced. Robotics could get close, but I know one of the gentlemen here said in front of me, there's so many trades that you need a robot to go under a house, go in between walls, go up on ceilings. And of course, I've got a bit of background in 3D body scanning. It was my PhD, and even that, trying to map out something in real time and react all at the same time without doing any type of post-processing would be very difficult. But I think New Zealand will get there. We just have to be, as you said, very open to the technology that's overseas. And hopefully, we've got enough smarts in this country to make things happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very positive thought. And it's a collective exercise. And then I would like to end the session with the last final thoughts from the panel of experts, starting from Reno.
The last thoughts is like, it will be nice to repeat this kind of experience within 6 months and meet again, especially if you provide food. No, it will be nice to start having this kind of catch up, because I think it's important to understand what are the needs, what we can offer, because as a researcher, sometimes we live in a world detached from reality, according to what my wife say. And so I believe that this was a brilliant event to bring so many people together to learn from each other. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it's a reality check, isn't it, Reno? And also in that point, I would like to invite the industry professionals and the practitioners. We are very open for suggestions, as you know, that we still at very initial stages, and then we are it is research and experiment. So please provide your very critical, constructive feedback. We are open for to change it and move forward. Yeah, Prof. Srinath.
Yes, it was, I think, abundantly clear that there is enormous opportunities for the industry and for researchers as well to see how these technologies that are emerging can be deployed in the construction sector in a useful way. So important thing is the dialogue to happen between the industry and the researchers, and industry could make use of the researchers to provide possible solutions and make things work for them. So that's what we are doing in our Center for Smart Modern Construction. We are saying we provide research as a service for you. So if you want to come and make use of us, we have technology, we have brilliant minds working for us. So make use of it and come up with your problems, and then we can provide some solutions. So I think that should happen. And I do very much agree with Reno that this conversation should continue periodically at least. And we can see how what progress has been achieved in this time period as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in any other final thoughts, very critical, burning thoughts that you thought you are thinking maybe better to share. Yep. Okay, with that very positive thought, thank you very much, Professor Reno, Professor Srinath, as well as Dr. Ravi. We'll end the panel discussion. I would like to give it the microphone to my colleague Harold to conclude the session. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. It seems like 3 hours is not enough for this corridor. So yes, we will endeavor to do another installment of this one. Hopefully we can source funds for it. So there's a lot to unpack. Are we ready? Yes and no. But in order for us to get there, we need to take the smallest steps. The other reason, our other agenda for holding this is we cannot do this just within the university. We need partners because we need to test it in real life conditions and real applications. We need to test it to address real problems. And so we'd like to explore collaborations across the different applications that you're working on in your respective industries and sectors. Yeah, I would like to thank everyone again for joining us. I know it's past 8. We hope to see you. We hope to keep in touch, maintain the connections. Also, thank you to CIOB for helping us disseminate this to our broader global community. So acknowledging everyone who's joining us online. There's, I think, 150 of them approximately, and everyone who made an effort to be here in person. We thank Massey University for sponsoring, for the funding. Our volunteers. There's Seth and Silpa and Akash. Thank you, and Seth and Jahan. Thank you everyone.
Sorry, online people, you don't have coffee or refreshments we have here, so you are missing that part. But other than that, you got everything else. Yeah, so we're gonna. Yeah, please.
Sorry, I forgot one thing. So if you've not filled out our survey yet, please fill out our the survey form. It will really help us secure funds if we can generate results from these kinds of engagement. So we'd really appreciate your help. Again, thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so the food is for this event. So when you are going home, please feel free to take as much as possible for your kids, for your family, because your wife might be angry, your husband might be angry because you are staying late here. So please take some food to make them happy. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great night. Safe travels.